The Shadow of a Secret. The Son of Hitler? Berlin, 1945. Berlin is burning, the war is ending, and the Führer bunker lies in ruins. Adolf Hitler's body, charred and lifeless, is carried out, and for Europe, it feels like the nightmare is finally over. But for some, that ending was just the start of a new mystery. The world hunted Hitler's closest allies, Goebbels, Himmler, Bormann. But amid the chaos, whispers spread of a name no one had put on any wanted list: Jean-Marie Loret. Who was he? Not a soldier, not a Nazi, not even German. He was a Frenchman, quietly living his life in northern France. And some said he was Hitler's illegitimate son. The first time his name popped up was in a secret report from the French resistance. It was a small note, almost an afterthought, mentioning a possible offspring of Hitler living quietly in France. At the time, no one paid much attention. After all, rumors about Hitler's escape or survival were everywhere. But this was different. The source was a nun, assigned to care for wounded German officers during the war. She overheard a drunken SS soldier speak of a French boy who will one day rule Europe, calling him Loret. Meanwhile, in a quiet town near St. Quentin, a woman named Charlotte Lobjois lived a modest life. She spoke fluent German, which was unusual for a French woman who'd never traveled abroad. In 1950, a curious journalist came knocking, asking about Hitler. At first, Charlotte said nothing. But eventually, she told a story no one expected. In June 1917, she said, she met a quiet German soldier, 28 years old, strange and withdrawn. He sketched pictures in his notebook and spoke often of destiny. His name was Adolf Hitler. She claimed he was the father of her child, Jean-Marie, born in March 1918, just before the First World War ended. Charlotte never spoke of the boy's father again. Jean-Marie grew up without a dad, teased for his looks and quiet nature. When Hitler rose to power, Charlotte moved often, never revealing the truth. Jean-Marie himself fought for France in World War II, against Germany. No one suspected he might share blood with the man leading the enemy. When asked about the war later, Jean-Marie said simply, "I always felt like a soldier fighting a war that wasn't mine." Years later, in 1979, French intelligence quietly released some documents about Loret. Handwriting comparisons showed striking similarities between Charlotte's old letters and Hitler's sketches. A retired SS officer even said Hitler once confessed, "I have a son in France. He must never know." Rumors of money sent to Charlotte and Jean-Marie during the 1930s surfaced. German soldiers had even been seen repainting their house during the occupation, something highly unusual. The French government never confirmed or denied any of it. If true, what does it mean? Can evil be passed down through blood? Can a man's identity be haunted forever by the shadow of a father he never knew? Jean-Marie never claimed the legacy. At first, he didn't want to believe it himself. "I am not him. I am not that man," he said. "I had a mother, not a monster." But curiosity pushed him to look for answers. What he found would take him on a journey filled with secrets, lies, and painful reckonings. The search for truth, Jean-Marie's journey. The mystery of Jean-Marie Loret's parentage didn't just fade away. In fact, it pulled him deeper and deeper into a world of secrets and shadowy history. In January 1971, everything changed with a single letter. It came from a retired notary in Alsace, marked confidential and urgent. Inside was a handwritten statement from Charlotte Lobjois, Jean-Marie's mother, written a year before she died. She admitted the truth she'd hidden all those years. "I kept it from you to protect you. Your father was not a baker or a tailor. He was a German soldier. Adolf Hitler. I met him in Fournes-on-Wep. You were born of that brief encounter. Forgive me." Jean-Marie sat with the letter, stunned. It was authentic, her handwriting, her signature. His mother was gone, and with her, the final piece of the puzzle. He was 53 years old, a war veteran, a civil engineer, and father of 8, living a quiet life far removed from history's spotlight. Suddenly, his world shifted. The son of Adolf Hitler? The thought was terrifying. He looked in the mirror and asked himself, "Is this the face of a monster's legacy?" At first, he tried to ignore it, but rumors began to spread. Reporters knocked on his door. His children had questions. Neighbors whispered. So Jean-Marie did what any man in his place would do. He started digging. He searched archives and found records from 1917 showing a German corporal named Adolf Hitler, a regimental cartographer stationed near his mother's village in northern France. He traveled to Paris and met military historians who confirmed the timing. Hitler's battalion had indeed been in that area during the exact period Charlotte claimed to have met him. A local priest remembered Charlotte, describing her as proud but anxious, living under the weight of a secret no one dared ask about. There was no birth certificate naming a father, no official documents, just silence. Jean-Marie needed more than silence. While cleaning out his mother's attic, he found a metal chest filled with sketches, ink drawings of rooftops, soldiers, and people. On the back of one was a faint signature, A.H. 1917. A handwriting expert in Lyon confirmed the style matched Hitler's wartime sketches, precise and controlled. One drawing showed a woman in a scarf sitting in a wheat field. The face resembled Charlotte. Were these authentic or just wishful thinking? Experts argued. But for Jean-Marie, they were vital pieces of a shattered puzzle. He also learned that during the 1930s, men in dark coats sometimes visited the house, silently leaving money in envelopes. During the German occupation, his home was strangely spared from raids. German soldiers repainted shutters and fixed the roof, an unheard-of privilege for a poor French household under occupation. Why would the Wehrmacht protect Jean-Marie's family? He found a declassified German quartermaster's note. Property to be maintained, Loret household, confidential, refer to Bormann. Martin Bormann, Hitler's private secretary. Still, official confirmation was elusive. When Jean-Marie asked for DNA testing, the German government refused, citing privacy laws. Attempts to access Hitler's remains for comparison were blocked because the Soviets controlled the skull fragments and jawbone. Even decades later, tests on skull fragments suggested no match to Jean-Marie's descendants, but controversy remains because the authenticity of the skull itself is questioned. The answers slipped further away. In 1981, Jean-Marie broke his silence with a memoir, Ton père s'appelait Hitler, Your Father's Name Was Hitler. It wasn't a bombshell exposé. Instead, it was a deeply personal story of identity and struggle. He wrote, "I do not know if I am his son, but I know I am not like him. I have never hurt a man. I have never worshipped power. If he is my father, then I have spent my life proving I am not his reflection." Historians debated the story, critics dismissed it, but for many readers, the book was a human tale about the heavy burden of a legacy, real or imagined. Jean-Marie died in 1985, leaving behind a wife and 8 children. Some of them believe the story, others don't. But one thing was clear. They lived with a name shadowed by history. His daughter said it best. "We do not carry a legacy of evil. We carry a legacy of unanswered questions." The weight of a legacy. What it means to be Hitler's son. Jean-Marie Loret's story isn't just about history. It's about identity, family, and the haunting question of nature versus nurture. What does it mean to be tied by blood to one of the most notorious figures in history? And what happens when you don't choose that bloodline? For Jean-Marie, the rumors and revelations came as a shock, but he never accepted the legacy of evil that came with his alleged father. Instead, he spent his life trying to define himself on his own terms, as a husband, a father, and a man who fought against the regime that might have created him. His memoir was a quiet rebellion against the idea that blood determines destiny. "I am not that man," he insisted, and through his actions and choices, he tried to prove it. The public, though, was fascinated by the mystery. Media outlets across Europe and beyond covered his story, blending history with speculation and intrigue. Some wanted proof, others wanted to sensationalize. But Jean-Marie's reality was more complex. He was a man caught between worlds, French and German, victim and alleged heir, history and personal truth.